you very much. Thank you to Baruch and to the team here to welcome me to speak about the question about race, racism, and the continuity between the situations of the past and the situations of the past linked to race, to slavery, and also to colonization, and to have the opportunity to speak about the continuity in between those structures, actually. So I wanted to start with talking about the history of the N race in America, history of the Black people, because when I read this page that speaks about the same, that speaks about the race in America, I was just struck how everything that was being written at the beginning of the 19th century was similar to things that we in Belgium with other militants have been through and also have been, could have been talking about, could have said. The first project that I worked on as a curator was an exhibition on showcasing and featuring the presence of the Congolese people in Belgium, and what was important to me in this project was really to show that the presence of African people in Belgium and in Europe in general was not something new, because I always have the feeling that people see us, Black people, as newcomers, as people that need to be explained how the things are going in the country, when it's not always true. You have different generations of people, you have different types of journeys through the lives of people, which leads me to say that you have different Black identities. Paul Gilroy in Black Authentic speaks a lot about it. I don't want to go into too many details, but just to go forward with what brings us here today is this exhibition about the life of Paul Robeson. And Paul Robeson was an artist, he was a singer, he was an actor, he was also an activist and a lawyer, and he was also very active into sport. And what the link that I can see in between his life and the life of Black people here in Europe, but in Belgium, because this is where I come from, is really the injunction, the lack of freedom to really choose your identity, or to really be able to choose and define who you are. Black bodies, in terms of male Black bodies, I think Mireille Chiusi will speak about the female bodies later, but when we speak about Black male bodies, for example, they are very, very well, even very well is not the right word, but when they are represented to the public sphere in general, they are represented as sportives. Like if you play football, it's the same in the US, but if you play football, if you do sport, then you may have a chance to be represented and to find your place into the society. When you sing too, when you dance, maybe when you act is different, because then it's really it would be about entering the world of the media, and you don't have so many black actors playing into movies. That's something different. But as long as it's playing the comic and as long as it's playing the person who's always happy, then it's okay. And it's also the same for black women, but on a different level. For example, during the slavery, black women, but also black men, they were, so, you know, those people, they have been taken from their place, put into the boats. Maybe sometimes some of them during the journey died because of the conditions that were not too good. But when they would arrive in America, in order to be sold and to be attractive to to their future master, to go and work into the fields, they were supposed to smile and also to kind of play a certain seduction game. So they were supposed to sing and to also show joy. And that's why Frantz Fanon speaks about the fact that when colonizer arrived into America, let's talk about this, but it was the same in Africa, they took the lands and then they took the bodies. When they didn't have enough bodies, they brought other bodies from Africa. And then they also used the mental alienation. That means that it's also through the mind that they have to convince you that everything that you are or everything that you were is not okay, that you have to be brought to civilization. This is what Achille Mbembe calls the injunction to be nothing. And so I was talking about the stereotypes and jobs that were accepted into the world in general, but actually I used the PowerPoint here just to show you this image because I know the PowerPoint is in French. But I think this image from Hank Willis Thomas is really interesting. It has been showcased in an exhibition in Portland in 2019. And the title of this exhibition was All Things Being Equal. And this phrase, this specific phrase, all things being equal, in this case shows that the situation for the black man was the same when he was in the field, and then when he gained freedom and when he gained the right to work, but then his body is always being used. Is always being used through the capitalism. Through sports, it is true through the sports, but it's also true when you have a regular job, I would say, because that's the condition of capitalism. People are being treated as comme du bétail. I'm sorry. Like cattle, yeah, because they sorry? Inventory, thank you. Cattle, inventory, those are the words. And that's really something that is important to have in mind when we speak about those questions. I will show you also like the idea also of the black male that is allowed to be a sportman is something very important, and I realized that when I went through the flyer that I did myself in 2016 during the exhibition about the presence of Congolese people. I had to choose through all the photographs that was at my disposal, and I chose this specific one. And I think it's also kind of interesting to see how we are all conditioned to be like, okay, this is the type of images that people will accept in the society. And the next one is an image. It's actually kind of random publicity for how do you call that? Hewlett-Packard, the printing company. But it's not that random, because actually this is really the type of image that we don't see very often in terms of commercial. And then I made some research, and actually I found out that in Hewlett-Packard in Belgium, they have a network of black people working in this company, and this group of black people like working internally and as internally and also on an international level, but the group, like the person who's leading the group, is based in Belgium, but then it's international, because definitely you don't have enough black people working in this company in Belgium to change the situation. But then this group is able, from the inside, to change things and to show how black people, or how some black people would like to be represented into the media. And I think it's kind of interesting to see that. Talking about the stereotypes that touch black people in general, I think you have like what happens when a black person or a black family enters into a museum room. I don't know if you have already experienced that, but it's kind of, people are surprised. People question themselves, even if the people don't consider themselves as racist, and even if they don't have any issue actually with black people, they're just surprised, like, oh, what are they doing here? And it's also because the idea or the stereotypes that are linked to the black identity are always, he's supposed to be at work. If he's here, it's because he's working. And it's something like, at least if he's here, it's because he's not working. It's not because he has the capacity to do leisure, because he's not supposed to do leisure, because he's not supposed to take profit or to take advantage of the money states, because all those ideas are really behind when we see someone that we considered as a foreigners. And I think that's also this injunction of being foreigners is also something that with times we also, when I say we, I mean black people, tend to try to adapt our behaviors maybe to this demand. You have to act differently. And at the same time, some people say, yeah, you also have to claim for the right to be different. Yes, you have to claim for the right to be different, but then when this difference is being used to treat you as a non-human, then it becomes a problem. So I think Lou, the person right before me, did say that, did speak about the stress that people into racialized, she was more talking about racialized communities, the stress that those people are going through because they have to adapt somehow to this situation. One possibility, one way to adapt to this situation would be to, okay, I'm going to show the world that I am a human being, that I am capable of doing something else than singing and dancing. Or if I do dance and sing, I will do it so much better than anyone else that they won't have any other choice than to accept me. But then this type of mentality can be considered as something positive. Because then, yeah, you see the people, they have energy and they're always positive. But then it's a very stressful situation, and we really have to talk about the risk of burnout and the need in between those communities to organize and to speak about care, about taking time, and there is a whole bunch of philosophy and writings about the question of the care, and I really recommend the people to go and to read through that. I launched a project that is Wetsi Art Gallery. It's an art gallery where I do showcase the work of racialized artists, and I really try to work with artists who also have a decolonial message. When I understand decolonial message, I understand it also as being feminist, but then Afro-feminist. And also talking about ecology and all those values that really respect the people, respect the plants, respect the earth, respect the planet, because I believe that this is how actually people all over the world were living before the era of imperialism and about colonialism. Even it really needs to be, maybe it can be discussed into further details. Sorry. So one project that I chose this picture because it's a picture by Aïssatou Sis. She is a Senegalese, very young artist. Sorry. I don't know why. I was really okay until this morning, and all of a sudden I felt totally sick, so my apologies. This picture is called Resistance, and I think resistance is really what I do, and through everything that I do when working in Brussels, like when I curate shows with other institutions, and I also want to show another image of Black people in general, an image that feels more appealing to actually the reality of our lives. I didn't say it, but as an activist and as an art historian, I also had the opportunity, or not, to work with the Africa Museum in Tervuren, which is the very colonial institution in Belgium. And through this experience, I really started with BAMCO, actually talking about the need for restitution, the need for reparation, because I wasn't aware of how imbued into the society racism was, and how actually if we don't actively do something to change the society, to change the public space, to change the images of the Black people in general, then it will stay the same. Because as long as you don't speak to those people working in these museums, you think that everything is okay. But once you are really in contact with them and work with them closely, then you realize that, okay, no, this is not okay at all, and things need to change. And so I consider my project, even if it's very small, talking about budgets. I don't even ask for budgets, for public budgets. Like, I just, handle things with other people of the community. But I consider this project as a counter narrative, as a counter project to the Africa Museum, because but one day we will have the opportunity to receive some of the looted artifacts that are into this museum or that are into private families. And what it is already is a chance for artists to show who they are and to exist in this society. So thank you very much for your attention. questions?
Are there any questions in the room? I thought I can count on Luna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. I mean, I looked up the gallery and I found it really impressive how you stick to really dedicating the project to showcasing and to kind of also offer a platform. And you mentioned that your space is an alternative to the African Museum, which I think is a strong statement, and it's a really important statement. My question is, honestly, I thought like coming to this region, how diverse like Belgium and the Netherlands seem, at least, I felt these places would be a bit more ahead than in Germany, for example. So my question is, what do you really think needs to happen in order, for example, for museums to be like, okay, we are acknowledging the fact that we are colonial and we are reproducing these structures. What can we do to diversify and really be inclusive? Do you think there will be a time and space where these white-led organizations make space for people like you to take over that museum, to return those artifacts, to return those colonial, like brutally stolen items? Do you think there will be something that we will see it? Will we see it in our lifetime?
Wow, into our lifetimes, I hope so. And actually, we could be surprised. I think we, like in Belgium, already changed, made a change in the situation possible. But then what happened is that, like you have people in the streets saying, okay, we want to end racism today. So you have a political response, and this political response is just there to actually pacify the situation, but not really change the whole structure. So what my answer would be that it's up to us. Maybe you are in Germany, maybe we have some people here in the Netherlands, I'm in Belgium. I mean, it's up to us all together. I think we need to gather and also really bring those topics to the political agendas, and also not allowing them to do what they did in Belgium with the law about the restitution. That doesn't make sense. I mean, there is a law now, like a legal frame for the restitution of looted artifacts, but by the time that an object will really match all the conditions that are being stated in the law, it will take some time before the looted artifacts go back. And at the same time, I can see that into the museums, they are aware of this situation and they want to change it, but they just don't know how to do it. And so now, and we were talking about it in the train coming with Mihai Cheusi, like she was telling me, yeah, maybe now is the time where we can go to speak with those people into the museums, into these institutions, and be pacified and, you know, just try to collaborate. I'm not sure for myself, like really, but there must be people who will collaborate with them, and you also have need to have people maybe more outside and more guarding, you know, how do you say that? Like guarding the door and also checking that the things are going into the right direction, because otherwise, if you don't always be, if you are not always, like si tu baisses la garde, I don't know how to say that. But
if you lower your guard.
Yeah, exactly. If you lower your guard, then you're dead. You know, you don't do that. I think. I'm not sure I answered the whole question, but yeah, that's it for the moment.
Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. I have a question. Last year there was an exhibition in Antwerp. It was called Congoville, and it was a cooperation between the Antwerp University and Middelheim Museum. So the main building of the Antwerp University is the Colonial School, and actually civil servants were trained there, and well, they went to go to Congo, you know, before 1960.
Who was trained there?
Civil servants. So white people were trained to be administrators in Africa.
Yeah, sure.
And in this exhibition, there were also a lot of people from Africa in the Middelheim Museum reflecting on the situation. And can you reflect a bit on this exhibition? What is your opinion about it? And do you think this is a way to go to discuss certain topics? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I went to see this exhibition, and I thought it was a nice, very interesting exhibition. I wasn't a fan of everything that I saw, but there was some work of arts that I really enjoyed, like the one of Mahamat, and his last name is... Yeah, so there were some work of art that I thought were interesting. The only issue that I have with this type of projects is that you only have this type of projects that are financed by public money. Let me be clear. When we speak about blackness in Belgium, it's always about people coming from Africa, and it's always talking about people born and raised in Africa and maybe coming to Belgium when they were already adults. And this is definitely not the same experience than being born in Belgium and having, you know, your children born there and becoming a grandparent in Belgium. And you also have this type of black people in Belgium, Congolese or not. And those projects erase them, make them invisible, and also make the issues that they are facing in Belgium invisible. So it's not that I have a problem with this type of project with Congoville. I think it was a very interesting exhibition. I know the curator. She's now working in Brussels at Canal Pompidou Center. But it's also... yeah, I have an issue with the fact that you don't have other projects concerning the diaspora that of being financed. And this is where we have an issue, because it's not true that you don't have black people in Europe. We have been here for decades, not to say centuries. And it's just also to come back on Paul Robeson. I remember I saw this song, Old Man River, that I saw, and I was like, wow, this is definitely something that I could be singing, even as an activist, because now decolonization is trendy, in Belgium at least, and so we are all activists, we are all at the verge of the burnout, because we are being constantly asked to participate, to talk, to speak, to write, and this is capitalism. And at the same time, it's also, I'm wondering sometimes, okay, when the trend of decolonization will be over, what will happen, you know, with all those situations. But it's just to say that it's also something that I have been my mother, my parents going through in Belgium, like working all the time for their children to have a better situation. I do this myself now with my own kids, and this situation is definitely not fair. And what I also think that is problematic in this type of projects is that, for example, you now have a very new TV show in Belgium again, showing people doing dirty jobs. And the title is in French and it's something like "Yeah, les sales boulots," so the very dirty jobs. And they have been able to do a show like that and showcasing only white people. This is so weird because when you really go into the streets and you see people doing the dirty jobs, and at least in Brussels, you have many racialized people, you know, because they are the lower social. And so my issue is really with this invisibilization of our struggles and of our existence into the society, because we do participate to the society. We are human beings. We shouldn't have to say it. But if we want to speak about it, then we can speak how Congo contributed to the existence of Belgium as it is today. Economically, with the slave trade, come on. We have a lot to discuss about. So, yeah.
Thank you. So, when thinking about like the trend of decoloniality and how like institutionally it's being, you know, capitalized from these theories that came from, you know, like resistance, activist intentions, how do you like, what do you think about? Because I can also imagine, you know, like an exhibition like this, Congoville, or, you know, I can imagine how like it has touristic value.
Yeah.
And how, for instance,
yeah.
this festival in Tunisia has touristic value. So people are coming from all over the world to experience this, like, you know, the social phenomenon, you know, so what, how can we, like, how can you or us who are like urgent about the cause of like the true decolonization approach these like these systems in place? Because for instance, you know, like the abolition didn't happen until there was a plan to deal with the, you know, afterwards. So how, you know, like you can scream and scream, and then after so many years it's like, okay, you know, we're gonna make this museum, or we're gonna give back some of these works, but there's this condition that we put in place because, you know, so you guys don't have the environment to contain these works. So according to UNESCO, you know, we are the ones to keep it safe because this is important for like global heritage or whatnot.
Yeah,
you know, so
exactly.
how do you like, yeah, this capital value is something that is a bit a breadcrumb track between all of these moves, you know, like, yeah, I'm curious, what do you think about this?
It's difficult. I mean, there is no one good answer or one good attitude, and you have to do this and you have to do that. It's really about when it happens into your life, and how will you adapt to the situation. If you are at the end or in the middle or at the beginning of a burnout, maybe you're going to be like, okay, let's collaborate with these institutions and find some security. When you have more energy, then you can be like, okay, no, let's fight. Now is the right time to fight. But you also have to pick up your battles, because you cannot change the world in one day and with one person. So it's really important to be strategic and to organize collectively, and to also have like a political strategy, because the force of those institutions is really to depolitize every struggle that we do. And I'm not scared of saying we, because it's we racialized people, it's we black people, it's we brown people, it's we the people, you know. So so it's really about finding the balance in between the simple security, material, physical, health, about the mental health security, and then you do the rest and you pick up your battles. And you try to connect with other people. And of course, you also need to include into your battles, you also need to include the time when you can also have collaborations with allies when they can be. It's very important, because even for the slavery, it was, or the civil rights in the US, it was a black people thing, but they had allied into other communities, because this is how the life goes. We need to do this together. But then we also need, of course, we also need safe space where we can also interact with each other, because yeah, sometimes it's also very tiring to have to explain everything and everything and everything from scratch all over again if you are into a private or intimate situation. So it's really about finding balances. Does that answer the question? Yeah?
Hello, hello. Thank you for your offering. My question relates to your work as a gallerist. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the right term to use. Yeah. If you have ever thought about value, creating value for the images that exist outside of, the museum system, the traditional economies of art, which I think always in control of people, or always controlled by the collector, by the museum. Because it is, whilst we're discussing returning objects, we are also, I think at times, feeding the museums with material, because the people that give these images, or these the objects, the images, the artifacts, the artworks, value, are the very same people that we are, kind of like pointing out in this discussion about restitution and so forth and so. So, my question is mainly about that. How do we create value that can exist outside of a capitalist system controlled by collectors and museums and so forth? Is there a way to escape that?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I think this is really like the type of question, or a question that I ask myself every day in my everyday life, because it's, when I was talking about finding balance, it's really about, finding the security, because you also need this to be efficient and to also be useful to the cause. I think it's good when you can do it, when you have food into your fridge, and that everything is also fine and settled on this area. But then, and I'm also very often being asked, why am I not more aggressive in terms of commercially aggressive? Yeah, you should go and participate to this fair in Miami, and you should go there, and you should do this, and you should do this, and you would be successful in doing this. And it's not that I don't want to; it's just that I need to take the time to do it and to really see if it's what I want, if it's what's needed. because I do a commercial project, but at the same time, I don't want to enter the capitalistic world. I don't want to have the same relation to the planet than the one that the capitalistic world and structure wants us to be. So I'm always looking, and maybe like dancing and finding my balance in everything that I do. And this is how I move forward. And in terms of, because I think that this is how a new model, a new model can be created and appear, is just when you change some things, some stuff, and then you see how it goes. I also believe into that, and creating a new aesthetic, and this is definitely what I encourage the artists that I work with to do. But believe me, it's really not easy, because Lubna said this, sorry if I'm, okay. But you said it before, like it's fragilized communities working with fragilized communities, which means that when I have this type of discourse with an artist who is like hungry and he wants to sell his stuff, he might be like, okay, this lady is totally out of her mind, and let me go somewhere else where, And I can understand that, but this is what I do because I feel like it's my mission to do it, because I have this idea of doing it. So I need to stick to it, because I think it's also important. Because this is how we can create new dynamics into the society. But then, definitely, it's not easy to understand for other people into the communities that may say, oh, okay, you speak like that because you already have privileges, and because you're this and this and this and that, and I can take it. I can take it. I feel more that into what I do, it's more a question of faith than really saying, okay, I have all those privileges, but I take it because I understand that it's not the easy choice. It's definitely not the easy choice.
Okay, well, we're at the end of the time we've allotted for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your questions.